Step into a world of romance and mystery with Tamora Rose. Today we're reading Chapter 22 of Child of the Wind. Anger and acceptance warred within her, causing Canace to hit her pillow several times. When that didn't help, she burrowed her face into its depths and tried to block out the world. But still, thoughts of her impending marriage wouldn't leave her alone. Did she want to be married? Of course. All girls wanted a husband. A woman's lot in life was to marry and have children. She knew that. She wanted that. Or at least she thought she did. And Jett was handsome and could even be sweet on occasion. But he was also arrogant, controlling, and far too sure of himself. She wasn't sure marrying him was a good idea. And yet, what could she do? She was bound by royal decree to marry him. Perhaps it wouldn't be so bad. He was gentle enough, after all. He might just be good husband material. She already knew he had some experience in the bedchamber, and he knew how to run an estate, which she certainly didn't. It was entirely possible her marriage wouldn't be a disaster, especially if she was determined to make it work. She could try. Since she didn't have a choice in the matter and she didn't find him completely repulsive, Canace decided to get some sleep and worry about the rest tomorrow. Because she was hot and sticky from a day in the saddle, she stripped off her clothes, ignored the nightgown some servant had laid out for her, and climbed beneath the sheets naked. A few minutes later, she heard a distinct thump from her balcony. Already knowing who was there, she sat up and clutched the sheets to her chest. There, in the moonlight, stood Jett. He was still wearing the same clothes, and his riding gloves were tucked into his belt, telling her he hadn't even taken the time to change before coming to her. Though she was flattered, she was also nervous. Jett smiled as he strolled into the room. "Good evening, lovely. Were you waiting for me?" "Of course not," she glared at him as he came even closer to the bed. "What are you doing here? This is my bedchamber. You can't be in here." His wicked grin could be seen even in the darkness. "You know exactly what I'm doing here. Did you really think I'd leave you alone?" Canace swallowed hard and inched away from him. "You can't be in here," she insisted. But Jett only came closer. When he stood beside the bed, eyes fixed on her petite form, his hands dropped to his belt. Her eyes followed his movements. "No," she whispered, but there was no force behind her words. All she could do was sit there and tremble before his penetrating gaze. Despite her protest, Jett shed his clothing and slipped into bed beside her. She tried to roll away, tried to stop him, but he only wrapped an arm about her waist and pulled her back. Without hesitation, he pinned her beneath him and caught her lips in a fiery kiss. Instead of fighting him, instead of pushing away, Canace wrapped her arms around his neck and pulled him closer. A few minutes of his careful attention, and she was squirming beneath him. His hand slipped downward, and she arched her back and cried out his name. "Shh," he murmured in her ear. "We don't want Mac to hear you. He might wonder what you're up to." The image of Duncan walking in on them in their current state had her biting her lip to keep her cries of pleasure at bay. But when he suddenly shifted, she became aware that he was about to go further than she wanted. Her little moans of pleasure turned into a hiss of anger. "What are you doing?" she snapped, pulling away and resisting the urge to slap him. "You can't. We can't. I can't wait any longer, lovely." His voice was tight with frustration. "I need you." With an instinct as old as time, she knew that if she didn't stop him now, there would be no stopping him at all. Fear gave her the strength to push him away and the courage to meet his eyes. "No," she said firmly. "We must not do this. I must be a virgin on our wedding night. My honor and yours depends on it." He smiled and moved against her. "You don't really want me to go, do you?" "Of course I want you to go." It was hard to keep the exasperation from her tone. "We can't do this, not now, not until we're married in the eyes of God." "Why delay the inevitable any longer?" he asked as he nuzzled her throat. Canace shoved hard against his chest. "You will not stay here tonight. You will not." He could force the matter, of course, but doing so would only frighten her and perhaps make her hate him. Since that was the last thing he wanted, Jett reluctantly took his hands from her pale flesh. Before leaving the bed, he kissed the upturned corner of her mouth. "Are you sure?" he asked. desperately hoping she'd change her mind. When she nodded, he rose reluctantly and searched for his breeches. He noted her eyes following him as he dressed and smiled in satisfaction. Once he was fully clothed and somewhat decent, he turned back to her. "I actually did come here for a reason," he said ruefully. "I didn't expect to find you naked. It distracted me. My mother is planning the wedding in its entirety. She fully intends for us to be married in 5 days' time. I thought you should know." "5 days!" Canace almost shrieked. "I cannot be ready in 5 days. I don't even have a dress for the occasion." Jett smiled. "I'm sure my mother has thought of that. She'll surely have a plan. If you speak to her tomorrow and tell her you have nothing to wear, I'm sure she'll take care of it. She's good at these things, you know." No, she didn't know. Canace barely knew Rosemary. Though that would surely change in the future, at the moment they were still strangers. But if he was convinced his mother could handle this wedding, she wasn't inclined to argue. Not when there were so many other things she could argue with him about. "Why does the wedding have to be in 5 days? I thought we would have more time." She needed to have more time before she had no choice but to submit to him. Jett thought he understood, but it was better they be wed as soon as possible. Though his first instinct was to simply lay down the law for his pretty bride, he decided to be a little more gentle in hopes of avoiding the shrieking he was in no hurry to endure. Sighing heavily, he sat on the edge of the bed, careful not to touch her lest he be tempted past his ability to endure. "You know very well why it has to be now. We've just spent several days alone together. You're hopelessly compromised." Her eyes widened. "But you never touched me." A blush crept across her face. "Well, you did, but—" Jett grinned at her discomfort. "You might still be a virgin, but you're technically compromised. The truth of the matter is irrelevant." He was right, but Canace didn't want to admit that, so she wisely stayed silent. It was late and he should go, but she wasn't speaking to him, so she glanced away and hoped he'd take the hint and leave. Since Jett had only 2 options, and one of those would end with the premature claiming of her precious virginity, he rose and made his way to the door. "Not that way," Canace snapped. "Someone will see you. Go back the way you came." With a chuckle and a quick bow, Jett moved back to the balcony. He flashed her a quick grin, and then he was gone. That's it for today. If you enjoyed this chapter, stay tuned for more tales of romance. Until we meet again, may your days be filled with passion and just a touch of magic.